Hello and welcome back to the third half. I'm Scott Hamilton. Now, if you've listened to the third half before, you'll know that alongside people, planet and progress, there are a few other things that tend to crop up rather regularly. Music, sport and cheese. All the things I like and love in the world, in fact. So it was probably inevitable that eventually we'd actually get a cheesemaker on. My guest today is Julie Cheyney, founder and cheesemaker at St Jude's Cheese in Suffolk. Now, when we originally spoke, because I was looking for some great British cheese for our anniversary gathering, unfortunately, sadly, Julie can't make it. But when we got chatting, I very quickly thought, forget the event. I want to hear more about Julie St Jude's and the cheese making story. Julie, welcome to the third half on this hot, sunny Friday afternoon. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Scott. Thank you very much for asking me. And just to correct one little tiny bit is that our business is based in Norfolk. So we've gone across the border. We've crossed the River Waveney from Suffolk into Norfolk. So we've been at our new premises for 1 year now, actually.
Wow. Did you have to get a passport to go from Suffolk to Norfolk?
Was felt like it, yes. Yes, I felt apologising to the Suffolk people that I was leaving, and yes.
Oh, we don't get many of you round here.
Norfolk is fantastic, and half the farm is on the Norfolk Broads, which is just so beautiful and full of wildlife and amazing walks around there. Really incredible. So yeah, very lucky to be there.
Amazing. So Julie, cheese is practically a food group in its own right on our podcast. But how did it become part of your life before we actually get into the cheese itself? Where did your interest in food and cheese come from?
Well, always enjoyed eating and drinking, full stop. But so I was married to a farmer in Hampshire, and we were looking for some diversification. We did not have any dairy cows, but we had some friends that had a beautiful herd of Ayrshire cows, and that's still my most favourite breed. That Scottish breed of liver and white cows, such a lovely temperament and fantastic milk for cheese making. So then a girlfriend and I thought we'd start cheese making, and that's where we began on the farm in Hampshire making Tunworth, a camembert style cheese. So that was the embryonic stages of my cheesemaking career, which was back in, I think, 2005. We took the first cheeses to Reading Farmers Market in the cattle market at Reading. Yes, that was the first sale.
Wow. And so that sounds a bit like me tinkering about in my shed making, or many a man of an age would like just making some wine or some beer and stuff like that.
Yes.
And then it becomes a passion in its own right, doesn't it?
Well, we always had it in our mind for it to be a business. So we didn't have time to do it as a hobby because we had each had 3 children. So it had to be something that fitted in around the school run and bits and pieces like that, which cheesemaking traditionally always has. It's quite often been the farmer's wife point of making, and in between feeding the hens, feeding the calves, looking after the children, you just go in and out the cheese room doing little bits, whether it's adding the rennet or cutting the curd. It's one of those quite a staccato, can be, from the lactic making. If you're making lactic cheeses, it fits in nicely with that strange routine of rearing children and small animals.
Rearing children, small animals. I love that. When somebody once said, my wife's a drama teacher, and somebody once said, never work with animals or small children on stage. But I take it you did love cheese, because it'd be quite good. Well, actually, at the time, we also loved mushrooms, and we were going to, take a couple of acres and grow mushrooms. So yeah, cheese was the kind of natural diversification.
Yeah, I think most people do love cheese, don't they? They grow up with it in their lunchbox or something like that. But my passion is milk. I still don't drink tea or coffee. I drink 2 pints of milk a day. So do you remember, you're of a similar age, you must remember that advert on the boardings as a child, drink a pint of milk a day?
I do.
There you go.
And do you remember those? Do you remember the milk crates when they used to turn up at school when
Yes.
it started off glass and
Yeah.
then it became that horrible kind of early Tetra Pak type thing.
Mm.
And in the winter, well, in Scotland, the winter they'd be frozen. I was going to say the summer they'd
Oh,
be
really?
warm, but it doesn't get
Yeah.
that warm in Scotland to actually warm up. It probably was becoming cheese at that point, but we didn't actually work it out.
I was a very proud milk monitor at school, at primary school, with
Oh,
the
very
little
good.
third of a pint bottles that, yes,
Yeah.
that you'd stab your straw into. Yeah.
Lovely. And when you were learning, so go back to the start when you were learning as well. Was it literally buy a book and play
No,
around? Because we didn't have
no,
YouTube and Tinternet back in the
that's
days
right.
to do things.
No, you're exactly right. No, my business partner, Stacey, had gone to Reading University for a week's cheesemaking course with an amazing lady called Val Bynes, who was a consultant to Quick's Cheddar,
Yeah.
but would do various cheesemaking courses. So that's where it all began. And we started tinkering in kitchens. And yes, and then we, as you do when you're ignorant about things, we went up to London and we visited Paxton and Whitfield, La Fromagerie, and Neal's Yard. And it was the stars were aligned because we happened to walk in on each of those shops and see the right people saying, "Oh, we're two ladies from Hampshire. We can make some cheese. What would you like?" As if we could. What was missing on the shelves? What did everyone say? And they said, "There's no decent brie or camembert style cheese." And then a few months later, we found out why, because it's quite hard to make it consistently well. But two people that really looked after us was a chap called Arthur Cunningham, who then owned Paxton and Whitfield. He came down to our farm to see us, and Randolph Hodgson, who owns Neal's Yard Dairy, also came down with his head affiner, William Oglethorpe, to the farm. And yes, they could see that we had access to great milk. And so were there to, put us under their wings and help us to fly, really. Yeah, really helped. Really helped.
That's great. So you get a lot of great help right at the outset. And can you remember? I mean, it's not that long ago, but do you remember the first cheese that you made that you were
Dreadful.
Well, actually, I was going to say genuinely proud of because
Oh, right.
I'm sure there was disasters. Well, there might not have been, but I'm kind of thinking, we're not going to eat
Well,
much more of that.
all the disasters, I think, were with Tunworth because we really didn't have the right equipment or know what we were doing. But we managed to get a grant and build a cheese room within one of my husband's barns, and that's where it all was okay. It's one of the most difficult things in the world to make cheese at home.
Mm.
Cheese likes company. So it's, for me, thinking of St. Jude. And we had a Canadian chap come and visit us this week who was thinking of making cheese when he goes home. And I was saying to Mark, it's harder to make 50 St. Jude, easier to make 500. When it gets to a certain number, cheeses like company, almost they create their own cave when they're on the racks. And it's really hard for anyone to think, oh, I'm going to make cheese at home, make 5 at a time or something like that. It's incredibly difficult to do that.
That's really interesting because there's a lot. I didn't tell you this when we were chatting offline, but I went on a cheesemaking course once. Like my wife got me it for a birthday present, and it was in some kitchen in Oxfordshire somewhere. And it was lovely. It was a lovely day out,
Yes. Yeah.
And then you go home and you try and make cheese, and you just think, other than some curd getting squeezed through a muslin, you're not.
That's okay. Yes, that's easy, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But you're not going to scale up anytime quickly. But it's quite interesting what you've said there, that there actually is a point of scale where it works. Small batch doesn't work. You have to get that point of large, which I take it means that the trial and error process can be quite fraught with angst and trepidation.
Yes. Yeah, we did get some pigs to eat all the mistakes, actually. Yeah. We had some friends that had pigs on their farm, so they'd give us some wieners and we'd feed them and get them fattened up, then give them back. So they were reared on curds and whey.
Listen, Julie Cheyney, that is the circular economy before
Yes.
the circular
I
economy
love
was
trading,
even
don't you?
invented,
Yes.
wasn't it? And I tell you what, they must have been very happy pigs, and then probably were very good pork chops at some point for
Yes.
somebody as
Tasty.
well.
Hmm.
You've answered this in part. What makes great cheese? You've talked about milk and your love of milk.
Mm.
But beyond that, I mean, if you had great milk and other average ingredients, and we'll come on and
Mm.
talk about process as well, can you get it wrong? And the flip of that is, can you not make good cheese with bad milk?
No.
Mm,
So I can only talk from a raw milk cheesemaker's perspective. I've never made cheese with pasteurized milk.
mm,
Um, so there are lots of variables. And if you knew all those when you were starting, you'd probably choose something else to make. Next time when I come back, I'm going to make widgets, that's for sure, with no shelf life or anything like that. But so to answer you briefly, is that you have got to start with really good milk. And for me, really good milk means not only the composition of the milk, but how it's arrived in my cheese vat. So I want the farm, the soil to be well cared for, the animals to high welfare. It's got to be looked after. It's a whole picture, not only because you want to get the best ingredients you can lay your hands on for cheese making, but it's right. That's how it should be. It's
mm,
showing respect for the animals that have given us the milk and the soil. That's where it begins. That's where it really starts. And I'm so excited with this new farm. Now we've seen the milk in a full year, is that out on over half the farm is the Norfolk Broads. And so these are paddocks that haven't been ploughed for decades, and there's all sorts of things growing there. So when I went to agricultural college, we were taught that single species ryegrass is what you want for dairy farmers, high growth, good yield, good long leaf, nice and green. And so if somebody told me then, I'd get really excited about thistles and docks and lots of species of grass, whether it's little meadow grass to big ryegrass and all mixed in together. I would have screamed, because that's not what I was taught at agricultural college. But we do learn a lot with cheesemaking, how diversity is so important. And if we start going down a narrow road, something's going to upset it, like a drought.
Well, do you know what? I was just thinking there. I'm listening to you talking about variables, how difficult a lot of them are to control, and forgive me,
Yes.
there must be a lot of trust that you have to place in the supply chain, and I know that you'll have your suppliers, and you will look much closer at. Actually, it's interesting about thistle and docks, but there are variables that are outside your control, and I don't want to talk about Clarkson's farm too much, but I think that has brought home to people, the plight and how difficult it is
Yes.
when the natural world sort of
So
catches up
much
with
is
you.
beyond your control. If you wrote a business study about farming, the bank manager would throw you out, wouldn't he? Because I
Mm,
think the majority of farmers do it because they love being on the land so much. It's more than a business. It's got to be a business, but there's something there that pulls you to nature, and you might be cash poor, but inside you're so wealthy because you can walk out on the Norfolk Broads. And I went and did a cheese talk yesterday on the coast at a lovely town called Woodbridge in Suffolk, and I was
oh yeah.
driving back, and for the first time ever, I saw a fallow stag just nipped across the road and went into the stubble and stood and turned around. I stopped in the gateway and we just looked at each other within a nanosecond, and then he turned and skittered off. And I feel quite emotional about telling you that now, because that means such a lot.
Mm,
I'm so lucky
yeah.
to see stuff like that, and that makes my world richer. One man's rich is financial rich, and we've got to make sure we calibrate ourselves and stay grounded. And my rich is where I am here in this wonderful countryside with great people, doing something, making something with my hands that I know is going to put a smile on someone's face. It's going to bring people together around a table or something like that. That's what is rich, isn't it, Scott?
And you know what? So that is lovely. And we talk about this a lot on the podcast from a number of different angles, whether it's ikigai or whatever, defining what richness means, community, people, give back.
Mm,
I think the term give back, and I've said this a few times this week, is much overused. But I think we're kind of redefining what good looks like and what rich looks like by moments like that when you see something in the ecosystem more broadly around us, it makes us
mm.
feel good. I mean, God knows there's enough bad news and negativity around at the moment.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and I do think we're seeing a lovely pushback from people starting to explore health and happiness a lot more than perhaps what we used to. And it's important that we bring up the next generations to believe in that as
Mm.
well. And it's ironic us sitting here talking over screens, but get away from the screens and go out and see that stack. But just to go back a bit, and again, I'm way out of my comfort zone and off script here, but but I listen to people talking about honey. Yeah, bees go out
Mhm.
and collect pollen from local plants
And
and
nectar.
nectar, and the honey, around different areas of the country and world will be defined by the pollen and the nectar and the
Yes,
plants
yes,
that are there
yes.
locally, and that evolves over time. Ipso facto, the honey must evolve over time. As the land changes around you in Norfolk, the vegetation, what the cows eat, will impact what the milk.
Exactly.
How
You're
does that
exactly
play
right.
through to you? And is that just hey, listen, that's a natural evolution of my cheese, my product?
So fortunately, I've sell to lovely people who convey our story to the customer, and the customers will know that our cheeses will taste will change with the seasons according to what the cows eat, which is just what you said. So, what will affect the taste of the cheese? The breed of cow, because each cow genetically is different. Some would produce more creamy milk than others. If you think of Jersey cows to black and white cows, that's an extreme of the spectrum. So the farmer has got predominantly British Friesian, which are the lovely old smaller black and white cows that I learnt to milk on when I was a schoolgirl. Some Ayrshires and Dairy Shorthorn and Brown Swiss. So that brings a lovely mix of breeds. And then within that breed, there's a mix. And then the milk composition changes through the whole lactation. So when she's just given birth to the calf, the milk will be quite rich, and it will be quite rich at the end of lactation. And in the middle is more dilute. But
Mm.
also affecting that, as you say, is what the cow is eating. So the cows were out at grass, and about a month ago they came indoors because there's no grass there, and they were having supplementary feed. So the farmer thought, well, it's still so hot, we'll bring them in the barns, keep them on the supplementary feed, but at least they'll be in the shade, and the barns are by some trees, so there's always a breeze going. And then there's one barns with big fans in as well. So we're just trying to keep them as least stressed as possible, and they've been quite relaxed about that. So that's good. So there's a lot going on within the cow before she actually
Mm.
produces the milk that we take. And then once it comes into our cheese dairy, our influence are the cultures that we add to it. So I buy all my cultures from France, from a small company in northern France, and these cultures will acidify the milk on a known rising plane for what we're expecting for the particular cheese we're making with this milk on this farm. It's all very tailored. And then that will be ready because we follow the acidity of the milk to know when to rennet and then cut the curd and ladle the curds and whey into the cheese molds.
Right.
And then after that becomes maturation. So it can still go horribly wrong. Like can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, but you can ruin a good cheese from. You start off with a good cheese, but you can still not ripen it correctly. So yes, it's.
And you must be quite adept now. Again, I'm thinking, I'm going back to the amateur winemaker or beer maker. They only know if the products work when they pop the cork.
Right.
But cheese is probably a bit different. You'll be able to taste along the way and know that you're on a kind of arc towards, greatness. And then can you either adjust or stop or say, well, actually, I'm going to call that something else because
Yes,
I'm
you
going
can
to turn.
steer it to a certain extent. So with the St. Jude, we've been making that since 2012. And I think we all know what makes her happy and comfortable and mature nicely now. And we can see what's happening early on, how it's acidifying. Because at different times of the year, when the cows are out at grass, the milk is what we call a bit more lively than in the winter time when they're eating fermented food like silage and shorts. So yeah, St. Jude we know really well, and we've made 3 cheeses out of the same curd from St. Jude. So we make fresh curd, which we wholesale out to London restaurants mainly. We make the St. Jude, and then the washed rind version of St. Jude is her sister, St. Sarah. So those 3 are all from the same curd, and we know what makes that tick. And then we've been making St. Helena. That was at lockdown, and we know pretty much what helps St. Helena be St. Helena now. It does take a long time, and moving farms to just 10 minutes drive away, but new cows, new milk, new fodder. It's been a sharp learning curve, and now we're learning with St. Bede. So yeah, there's always something different going on, which makes it really interesting.
I'll bet, yeah.
I learned something special from Jamie Montgomery, who makes the beautiful cheddar. When things go awry, you shouldn't say, oh, what's happening to the milk now? When you're looking at the pH or something like that, it should be, oh, what's happening to the milk now? And be curious about it and learn. And yeah, he just flipped that a whole sentence round for me many years ago. And I thought, yes, yeah, you've got to be positive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and we were talking off the air there about Rebecca and Rebecca Gim, who makes the kimchi, and she's got a lovely story about a batch going slightly off, and oh well, let's turn it into kimchi jam. Because actually, and funnily enough, and I said, oh, that'll go nicely with some cheese. I know a lady who makes some lovely cheese. Again, the circular economy. It all comes together on the third half, Julie.
Yes.
Again, I'm kind of like, I want to come on and talk a bit more about St. Jude's and actually the business itself, but I'm loving listening to you here, and my head's going off all over the place because I do eat a lot of cheese. I do love cheese, and I'm thinking, what am I actually tasting when I eat cheese, and what should I be looking for? Because if you go to wine tasting and people say, "Oh, I'm getting wafts of coffee and tobacco and vanilla," and I sit there going, "I'm not getting any of that." Like is cheese kind of similar that you pick up grassy notes or
Yes,
a depth of.
absolutely. But we must remember all our taste buds are different. One man's strong as another man's mild, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it's so individual. And I know my taste buds have changed as I've aged. Things that I used to not so keen on, I love now, and vice versa. So it is so subjective. Some of the most difficult questions are posed at me at farmers markets, such as, will I like your cheese?
Do your eyes roll in the back of your head going, I don't know.
Hopefully nobody noticed that, but because I am told I do express on my face what I'm thinking, so I have to be really careful. Yes.
Put,
So,
put a bit of a mask on that day just to
but
know
what
that
has
nothing
been
moves.
really exciting in recent years, Scott, is the children that come up and taste cheese. I think that is brilliant. And they are more adventurous than their parents. So that's really, really good that they'll come forward and say, what's happening, what cows have you got, and things like that. I love it when the children come through.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I want to come back and talk to that a bit more. But talk to me about how you. We've talked a little bit about St Jude's there and the cheese. So how did you move into St Jude's and that kind of sustained business model? Because you were working, I think you were working with Neil's Yard before. You kind of had a career. Now you've got a new career where it's kind of all sustained yourself.
Yeah, so I was half of Tunworth cheese, Hampshire cheeses, and then some life happened, and I was on my own. And Neil's Yard said, "Come on, what are you going to make next?" And I went and worked for a couple of winters for them in the run up to Christmas. And I was tinkering, doing other things. And I knew it had to be a small lactic cheese because I was on my own. And it's easy to start making a lactic cheese because you just need a vat, really, and a draining table and a few cheese molds. It's not like you're going to invest making cheddar when you need a 2000 stainless steel vat screwed to the floor or anything like that. So I was quite a gypsy for a while because I just had a small amount of equipment that I could rent anywhere, food grade building. And I had some churns. I found some more milk in Hampshire and started making St Jude. So that was the beginning of St Jude cheese.
And what were you? So that's really interesting. What were you searching for at that point in terms of the cheese itself? Did you think, right, there's a gap in the market for doing this,
Yes.
And I want to make this product that tastes in this. So you've talked about the process but what were you striving for in terms of the end product?
So it had to be something small. So that immediately says lactic to you, what's missing on the shelf. And there still isn't, all these years on. I think there might be one or two other cow's milk lactic cheeses. Lactic cheeses are generally associated being made from goat's milk or sheep's milk. So I had a point of difference there anyway, and I only had access to cow's milk, so it had to fit. But I had an amazing, or still have an amazing consultant, French guy called Ivan Larcher, and known him for over 20 years now. And so we sat down together. I was doing a little bit of teaching up at Welbeck, the School of Artisan Food in Nottinghamshire. And Ivan was there at the same time. So we just sat down one evening and he said, look, if you make this curd, you can make a washed rind, fresh curd, all this sort of thing going on from one recipe. So that was the birth of St. Jude, really, had to be.
And why St. Jude? Where did you get the name? Do you get asked that all the time?
Yeah, well, it's, as we all know, it's the patron saint of lost causes, and that's how I felt. I'd lost one cheese, and what was I going to do? Cheesemaking was still my love, and I wanted to do that. How was I going to manage to do it? And so St. Jude is close to my name, and Ivan says the French turn it round aren't so scathing like the English, in that when you're down on your knees and things are tough, St. Jude will pick you up and send you on your way, help you move on forward again. And that's what my cheese has done for me. So,
wow, that's a lovely story. And
named, yes.
Yeah, and the next one will be Phoenix rising from the ashes or something.
Well, then I had Sarah, because a friend said, well, why don't you choose a female saint? And I did work for the Archbishop of Southwark, not that I'm Catholic, but I had such fun with them working in the archives for part-time work for a while. And so I got into the Catholic way of, I wanted to name another 4 letters. So St. Jude was going to turn into whatever was at the bottom and for the next cheese. And Sarah was a Irish saint that died of natural causes, which is quite rare for a female saint.
Wow.
And she founded a couple of monasteries and saved a town from burning down or something like that. And I'm not quite sure I'm pronouncing her name right, but it might be Sarah or something like that. But yes, that was the transformation of Jude into Sarah. So that's how the second one came about. And then Blake turned up on my doorstep about 8 years ago and said, I'm a chef. I'm going to do a pop-up restaurant this Christmas in Norwich. This is when I'd moved up to Suffolk, and I'd like to use some of your cheeses, and do you have a job for me? And so he came on board. He was my first full-time help, and he said, I've got an idea for another cheese. So I said, you make it, you name it, tell me what it's going to be. And he said, well, I grew up on St. Helena Road in Australia, so that's set in stone that we are saints. We are the cheesemakers that make saints.
So what? I love it. I absolutely love that. Will you get to a point where you're just inventing cheeses? You'll need to set up working groups, or so what's it going to be then? Oh, I don't know. We're struggling with more appropriately named saints to take this forward.
Yes.
That could be the limit. That could be the limiting factor on how many products you actually develop. I can't come up with any more names. Stop.
No,
Stop.
that's right.
But so when we first met, it was really funny because I think you said something like, "Right, I can't talk on Monday because I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning or something." I'm paraphrasing it, and I thought, "Oh my goodness, that!" And then at the end of the week, you're working and clearly living hours change. So just talk me through a week on the farm in the dairy and what that looks like, just quickly for our listeners, because a lot of people probably won't see this.
So generally at the moment, and it does change through the seasons, and the caveat here is that we're also pasteurising milk for the farmer because she has a milk bottle round at the moment. So she's at present making her own premises, but we're doing that in our cheese vat at the moment for her. So we have got to fit pasteurising milk in as well. So we're taking milk for ourselves to make cheese Monday and Wednesdays. And the closer we get to Christmas, more frequent that will be making cheese. Because Christmas, from sort of mid-October onwards, we're making a lot of cheese because after the half term, people seem to have a lot more dinner parties and want to eat more cheese. And then Christmas is Christmas, isn't it? It's just a cheese fest altogether. So Mondays, if we're making cheese, I like to get there. They'll start getting the cows in for milking about 4:30. So I like to be there about 3:30, 3:45 to start some preparation for our day, which means sanitizing things, getting the cultures together, make sheets, and writing out our orders, because our orders tend to go out on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday each week more than any other. So the milk will probably come in our dairy, be ready, start being milk, come through the pipes about 5:15, between 5:15 and 5:30. Blake or Mickey will join me about 5 o'clock. And then we're making.
Sorry for interrupting, but they should be up with you at 3:30. I think joining you at 5 o'clock is just the ultimate in laziness.
It's only so much you can ask of someone, isn't it? And
your bed.
It's my business. I got to do those. But we have got a schedule in our heads that once we're not pasteurising milk for the farmer, then we can change it a bit and we can drop back, so we can alter our days. So we don't have to get in at silly o'clock. But at the moment, that's how it is. And you do things to progress, don't you? Otherwise, So, So with St. Jude, the milk will come in and we'll be adding the cultures, letting that start to acidify. We watch it with the pH meter all the time. And it'll be ready to rennet about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then ready to ladle about 3:30 the following morning. So it's about between adding the cultures and ladling it is about 22 hours at the moment. And that's what lactic cheese making is. It's very slow and gentle and allows natural fermentation. It's not rushed. Tiny bit of rennet. We're just letting it acidify by itself. Whereas the other end of the spectrum is a high rennet fast make, like a brie, camembert, cheddar. You'll have within 4 or 5 hours, you'll have the form of a cheese. So yes, milk is absolutely amazing what you can do with it.
I There's a perfect symmetry here between you and me, Julie, because I have been known at 3:30 in the morning to be sitting around eating cheese with a glass of port. So the next time I'm sitting around eating cheese at 3:30 in the morning, which happens less and less these days, I'm usually tucked up by 10 o'clock, I will be thinking,
Yeah.
going out. Again, we talk a lot about circular economies. This is it right here. Um, Thank you for that. You touch on something there about kids, and I'd like to talk a little bit. And you talked about artisanal food as well, and I want to go back and touch on these a little bit. And I had one person on the podcast a couple of months ago. He is part of a charity called Freely Fruity. And I have to say that and roll my R's being a Scotsman. And basically they go around planting fruit trees in the country because, quote unquote, we don't have enough fruit trees and people don't have access to enough fruit. But the story gets deeper because the chief exec is he teaches he's a kind of he teaches biodiversity and ecology in schools, and it's very much how do we get children involved to understand more about the provenance of food, about biodiversity, about the ecosystem in which we live. And that's the first point. The second point is I've got a chap called Alex from Generation Soil coming on. I had a chat with him earlier this week, and he talks about the living nature of soil. He talks about composting. He runs a business out of Bristol, and he's doing a PhD in these topics at the moment. But if I bring all that back round with the artisanal nature of food and people thinking, I want to understand more about where my food comes from and the kind of sustainability of it. Do you think we're changing how, as a nation, we are looking at food, its provenance, and the ecosystem more generally? And is it impacting people, not just you, but you see elsewhere in the kind of artisan food trade? Quite a lot.
Yes. It's the short answer. I think you're right. And it's an absolute delight to have, be it at farmers markets, you get instant reaction from people. And more in the last 5-10 years, people are asking fantastic questions. So when I first was at farmers markets 20 years ago, banging on about the breed of cow, people, or whatever, what they were eating, people didn't really connect to that, but they are now. And they're asking me really quite searching questions. And it's brilliant. It's really, really good. So the next step on is not necessarily asking about the animals, but like you say, the soil and what they're eating and how is that going to be sustainable, especially as we're all aware of the temperatures this year. And at the cheese and wine talk that I was doing last night, it was really interesting talking to Joshua. He was talking about the wines, and I was saying, with the vines, are you going to lose some susceptible vines now? Are you going to have to think about what you're growing? And he said, absolutely, because they're not going to, although vines like poor soil, they don't like it dry. They don't like their roots being baked or the grapes being cooked on the vines almost. So we might see different varieties. We might lose the diversity of some of the older ones. Like he said, Pinot Noir is a really thin skin and it's really suffered this year. So it's a bit like our cows. There'll be some cows that can't take the heat like some of us, and we've got to look after them differently or breed ones that are more robust. And that's why I like a lot of diversity in the genetics. They always say like a mongrel dog is obviously usually stronger, healthier than a purebred, isn't it? Shh. Who have you got there? Who's that?
This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is Barney.
Oh,
We rescued him about 5 years ago, and there, probably as many people say, he's Heinz. I think there's 57 varieties in there.
yeah.
He's a robust old dog. So he probably copes
On
better
his sofa.
on yeah. Got a walk in the heat this morning. He's not thanked me for it ever since. But
Yeah, That's right. I've got a couple of rescues as well, and they're Heinz's, and yeah, they'll go on forever, won't they?
Oh, yeah.
So I think we've got to think about how we're going to look after our animals, our farm animals, and especially the dairy cows, and what breeds we shall go down, because this isn't a blip, this weather, it's a trend, isn't it? And when I put on my Instagram about the cows coming indoors, I had some really interesting replies. One from Cheshire, the lovely Appleby family that make beautiful Cheshire. They said theirs were in already, but they were wondering whether, if the winter is mild and the grass grows again, that they'll be able to put them out. That might happen. And then I had some people that follow me from Switzerland, Case Suisse, talking about, Julie, you don't know how many of the cows that in Switzerland have been brought down from the summer pastures already. They're in the valleys ready for the winter because there's nothing on the mountains for them to eat. So it's everybody's problem, especially in Europe. I mean, Spain and France are burnt up. We are, according to the agricultural press, we are already 18 million litres of milk short this year because of their fodder changing, i.e. no grass. Then the first thing that the cow will stop doing is producing the same quantity of milk. So all the lactations have gone down to accommodate the fact that there's nothing to eat. It's serious now, isn't it?
Oh, it's very serious, and that's why I started off this podcast. I still can't believe that there's people in denial. I mean,
Yes,
look at
especially all our governments, no matter what colour they are,
yeah.
food security. Oh, they just don't
Just look out
seem
the
to
window.
focus.
If you don't think there's an environmental and global issue, then just look out the window. I don't know where people's heads are at. But let's not. This
Yes,
this can quickly
let's
become
keep it light and happy.
light and happy on a Friday afternoon. It's not the rest is politics, ladies and gentlemen. This is
No,
the third.
not
The
yet.
third no, yeah. Give us another 10. Give us another 10 minutes, and we'll get there. But counterintuitively, then, and I'll be careful what I say here, does it mean the price of cheese is going to go up a lot because of scarcity of source products? And, if there's a decline in livestock, in food, and actually, should we be consuming less cheese because of that?
I don't know. I don't know. It might make some dairy farmers who are close to retirement and they've got no succession to stop now. So we might lose a lot more dairy farmers, but we're already importing milk. So there's only a finite source, isn't there? Milk that otherwise nobody's going to want to share their milk if they want it. So maybe we'll not have so many dairy products. I don't know.
And I don't
Maybe
want
the next generations will wonder how much butter and cheese and milk we consumed. How bizarre was that?
Yeah, but the same way as we question our parents and grandparents, why did you do that? Our kids and
Yeah,
grandkids and we'll be saying the same in the future. But can I touch on one thing you said there, because I think this is a lovely kind of again segue into, you talk about cheese and wine there, right?
yeah,
And I talk about cheese and pork. Now, cheese and wine parties, I'll add it on. It used to be one of those amazing community events, didn't it?
yes,
What we do? Oh, should we have a fond? If you lived in Surrey, darling, or well, Hampshire, let's have a fondue party.
yes.
Or we'll have a cheese and wine.
It's that Abigail's party moment, isn't
Is
it?
that big? Do you know what I was just about to say? I've just got Alison Steadman there. Alison Steadman popped up in front of me like
Yes,
Abigail's party.
cheese
But
and pineapples on a stick. Why did we
but
do that?
why? Yeah, let me eat a bit of pineapple or a little silver skin onion with my cheese, and I can't taste.
Yes, while I'm sipping Blue Nun. Yes,
The liquor milk comes out later. Um,
yeah,
but it's the community aspect of it. Is that I'm just going back to that point about food generally. That are we finding our community view and desire for food again? The same way as I always think the French and the Spanish, like the well spoken about Spanish siesta and long dinners and stuff like that.
Yes.
I still love my Sunday lunch with my kids around the table, and it'll become a political argument after the third bottle of wine. That's when they were aged to drink, not when they were teenagers or anything like that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Is that coming back now?
Oh, I hope so. I really hope so. I think our eating habits have become more homogeneous in that, yes, you can get some rubbish stuff on the continent as well. Yes, they have their equivalent of Dairy Lee in La Vache qui rit, don't they?
La vache qui rit. The laughing cow. Many a summer holiday in France, the kids ate it.
Brilliant.
Shockingly.
Baby Bell and all that. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it is, well, it stems on what you did as a child. Do you think it's your habits of gathering round a table or not? So, yeah, it would be really good, because I think it's good for everybody to sit round, whether you're discussing and arguing politics or just enjoying your meal or whatever. But
hello.
Sorry, Freddie, you're going to have to go.
What a doggy episode of the third half.
I know.
It's become. We start
yes.
off in cheese and we finish with dogs.
I think sitting around a table, there's nothing better in the world than to share food and drink with friends and family around a table.
Love it.
Yeah, I really don't know what the future of that is, but I really hope it does remain.
Julie, it's coming back, and it's people like you and me to a smaller extent that are going to make it happen. Good food on the table, community, the art of conversation, whether you fall out, over politics or,
yes,
like at one point in desserts or cheese, then so be it. And the dinner parties, I think it's a really important institution and part of it.
I think cheese is one of those staples like bread, isn't it? And I think somebody once, or I read it somewhere, said that milk and honey are the only animal products that we consume direct without cooking or changing it. Is that right?
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else that.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Everything else we do something to, don't we, before we. But something really simple, unadulterated. It's most simple form of preserving milk, isn't it? To make some cheese. So
yeah.
And yogurt, good stuff like that.
Indeed, natural as well. So listen, Julie, this has been lovely. We're going to finish with a quick fire round, and you're going to hate this. They're going to hate this because it's about cheese.
Oh God, I hope I know the answers.
No. You listen. You'll know the answers. This is.
Can you just hold them up for me? Tell me.
Choice. And you can't. You don't overthink this, okay? And no long explanations. Here we go. Julie Cheyney from St Jude's. Cheddar or Stilton?
I can go a bit off piece here. Stitchelton, because that's the original raw milk Stilton.
Oh, you got extra words in there, but I love them. That's fine. French or Swiss?
French.
Hard or soft?
Soft.
If you're listening to this in Spotify, ladies and gentlemen, we had a slightly pained expression which broke into a smile there from Julie. Cheese before dinner or after? Oh,
crikey, that is a quick fire. Probably before, actually.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. Thank you. Wine, beer, or something else?
Wine.
I'm glad you didn't say milk, having said you drink 2 pints of milk today. I'd be really worried if you sat down with a cheese board and a pint of milk at the end of the night. Crackers or bread?
Bread.
A cheese you think is overrated?
Oh, crikey, that's harsh, isn't it?
How about, okay, I'll spin it again. How about under-celebrated?
Under-celebrated. Well, soft cheeses. Mild cheeses. Can I say mild?
Mild
because
cheeses.
One of my favourites is Caerphilly, and that is so complex. If people would just let all the flavours open up in their mouth. Because quite often I find people equate strong to good and mild to bad cheese. So I think everybody's got to try some more mild cheeses that can be quite complex if you just be in the moment and get those tastes out in the mouth.
Love it. You've answered my next question, so I'm going to skip that now.
Oh, sorry.
It's fine. It's good. It's good. It's organic. So your ultimate cheese board, 3 cheeses.
Well, I'd probably have some Caerphilly, some Comté.
Oh, love it.
Because I do love Comté so much. And a cheese that is no longer with us. Some lovely people. Their company was called Innis, and they made an Innis log, which is a beautiful goat's cheese log. They were really, I miss them a lot.
That's really interesting because we've not talked a lot about goat's cheese, have we? And I do love a bit of goat's cheese on my cheese board.
Yes. Okay, so can we go back to that question? One that is undersold, it's goat's cheese. Because quite often people have eaten a strong one and that's put them off. When if you go and taste your way down the counter in Paxton Whitfield or Fine Cheese or Neal's Yard, try some goat's cheese everywhere. And really, it's going to be fresh, it's going to be creamy, it's going to be really lovely, everyone. You'll be surprised. So, yeah. Go forth and find some goat's cheese.
Go forth and find goat's cheese, ladies and gentlemen. Final question. You've got good cheese, good company, and the evening stretching ahead of you. You're not getting up at 3:30 tomorrow.
Okay.
What music have you got on your record player?
Well, it's got to be Darling David, hasn't it? Mr. Bowie has got a very special place in my heart.
Oh, that's lovely. I've been talking to David Bowie this week, actually. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Can you, I don't know whether I can see it. Can you see up there?
I can't. Yeah.
Up there is a little cardboard cutout of David Bowie that I got in a Secret Santa some years ago. So along with my oil paintings of my cheeses there is David. So yes.
Amazing. Your guilty pleasure, a little
Every
cardboard
cheesemaker has paintings of their cheeses, you see.
And a little pop-up of David Bowie. I bought my wife a 6-foot pop-up of Idris Elba one year, a cardboard one, when I cooked an anniversary, a birthday dinner for her. He was the third.
Wow.
Well, I did it. This is quite funny, and then it was around the theme of The Cook, the Thief, his wife, and her lover.
Oh yes.
And I did
Brilliant
all
film.
these. Brilliant film, isn't it? And I did Peter Greenaway, and I did all these different courses. And of course, I was the cook, and the lover was a cardboard pop-up of Idris Elba.
Brilliant.
Ladies and gentlemen, an insight into my life. Julie, thank you. Listen, I had a feeling when we first talked the other week that we were going to have a brilliant conversation. It's lovely talking to you about what you're doing. It's lovely to hear so much about cheese and the process in St. Jude's. I'm delighted that after all the cheese references in the third half, we've finally had somebody on who actually knows what they're talking about. So, Julie Cheyney from St. Jude's Cheese, thank you ever so much for joining us here.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you very much. Cheerio.
Enjoy the rest.
Fell on a coastal town, a metal beach, the sea was brown, birds were screeching all around, devil taxis